Welcome. Today we're doing a deep dive into Job, chapter 25.
That's right. It's Bildad the Shuhite's turn to speak.
And it's a really compact argument he makes, isn't it? Very focused.
Absolutely. It's all about setting up this immense picture of God's power and, well, majesty.
He wants to show how vast God is compared to,
Yeah.
compared to us.
Exactly. He starts right off saying dominion and awe belong to God, establishing that authority immediately.
Order in the heavens, right?
Yeah.
Way beyond anything we can grasp down here.
Totally. And then he hits you with those big questions.
The rhetorical ones.
Yeah, like, can his forces be numbered? It's not like he expects an answer.
No, it's meant to say the answer is, infinite, uncountable.
And upon whom does his light not rise? It's universal. God's presence, his power, it's everywhere, according to Bildad.
So once he's painted that picture,
Right.
this huge, overwhelming divine scale,
Then he turns it right back to the human level. And this is the core, really.
posing those questions, how then can a man be righteous before God?
Right. And how can one born of woman be pure?
Okay, let's dig into that a bit. From Bildad's point of view, these aren't genuine questions about how, are they?
No, not really. It feels more like he's saying, given what I just told you about God.
The very idea of human righteousness or purity next to that is, well, kind of absurd.
Precisely. He's setting a standard that seems impossibly high.
And the imagery he uses next really drives that point home. It's quite something.
Oh, yeah. He says, if even the moon is not bright and the stars are not pure in his eyes.
Wow, think about that. The moon, the stars. We see them as, symbols of light, maybe purity.
But Bildad says even they fall short from God's perspective. They aren't bright enough, not pure enough.
That just completely shifts the perspective, doesn't it? If stars aren't pure in God's sight.
Then what chance does a human being have? That's the implication.
It's an extreme comparison.
Yeah.
Designed to make a point about the sheer otherness of divine purity.
Exactly. So if the celestial bodies aren't up to snuff, where does that leave people?
And he doesn't hold back with the language there, does he? It gets pretty harsh.
No, he goes straight for the most diminishing terms. Man is described as but a maggot.
A maggot. And a son of man who is only a worm.
Maggot and worm. Earthbound, seen as unclean, maybe insignificant. It's a deliberate, stark contrast.
A contrast to the dominion and heights of heaven he started with. It reduces human status completely.
It serves a purpose in the context of Job's overall story, of course. Bildad is essentially saying, look how insignificant you are.
You're like a worm compared to this immense power. So how can you possibly argue or question God?
That seems to be his angle. Your standing just doesn't allow for complaint from his perspective.
So Job 25 gives us this really intense view from Bildad. God's power and purity are absolute, infinite.
And humanity, fundamentally impure, insignificant, down to the level of a maggot or a worm.
It's a challenging perspective. It forces you to consider the sheer scale of difference Bildad is describing.
Yeah, that perceived gap between the divine and the human, it's vast in his telling.
And it leaves us with this final thought, really, drawn right from Bildad's own words.
Yes, in this view, even the moon and stars are seen as impure. What does that truly suggest about the kind of purity and righteousness being discussed? What kind of impossible standard is that?